Another week on Raider Homes TV, and Vanna White to my left here is going to hold up her sign and tell you that we're talking about relocation this week.
Maybe I could have another name other than Vanna White.
Yeah, let's just call you Bryn. You maybe feel like you have to use your relocation, whether you're a buyer or a seller. Your company says, this is who we use, you're assigned this agent or that agent, and you have to.
Or you should.
Yeah, or it's in your best interest, something like that. Should you, should you not? What's the best? So that's what we're going to talk about quickly. But first, our sponsor.
It's Spindrift Sparkling Water with lemon and a little dash of lime.
We're feeling healthy today, apparently.
I definitely recommend Spindrift if you're a sparkling water person because it's not naturally flavored, it's powered with real juice. Relocation, however, the number one message we want to get across is that you do have a choice, whether you're a buyer or a seller, in the agent that you work with. And that having that choice and going out and maybe doing a little research to finding the best situation, scenario, and agent for you may be in your best interest and not necessarily the one that they say, here you go, and maybe even make the whole situation look appealing by offering incentives or different things like that. Those might not be worth it in the end once you kind of know a little bit more. So from a seller's perspective, it looks, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I was going to say, obviously we don't know every little detail about whatever company you work with. And it might feel great, and maybe it's great. We're not here to say you should do this or that, but this is an educational, these are the details, and there might be more to it than what you think about.
Yeah.
So that's my disclaimer.
And for this information, I mean, we've gathered it from legitimate contracts from relocation companies, so we're not just making this up. The different companies have their own riders or addendums and things that they insist that get attached to the contracts and the agreements, both with the agents they use and with the buyers and purchasers and sellers. Okay,
so back to our discussion. From a seller's perspective, it seems very smooth and easy. You're moving. Relocation company says, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. Maybe there's a little something extra incentive-wise for you if you use their program. So go for it. That sounds great. But what might be something to think about?
Well, for one thing, and we're going to talk about the details as to why this is true, but your home will not necessarily be as attractive because you're working with a relocation company as another home that's being sold directly from the seller. And it's kind of marked by buyers. Some buyers don't even want to look at that because of what it means, or at the very least it will be a consideration. And the other thing is sometimes these incentives that they're offering you, those are great, but what sometimes people forget is that even working with an agent of your choice, commission is negotiable, so don't forget that. Many people would like you to think that it's not, but that wouldn't be legal. It is, and so you could incentivize yourself by finding an agent that you really trust and creating a situation through negotiation on that commission that is an incentive for you in that way, and then you might come out on top.
Yeah, very good. A little bit of work on your part. It doesn't have to be hard. Negotiation doesn't have to be awkward. It's business. So yeah, you could do the same yourself. Exactly. Good point. So where are we going next? So we're talking about...
So from a buyer's perspective then, if you are looking at a house that is being sold by a relocation company, what are some things that you might want to consider and therefore sellers should know as to why their house might be viewed differently? Definitely, to me, the biggest downside is the fact that they will most likely completely do away with the typical option period or termination period that, as most contracts are laid out, you pay this option fee that can be credited toward the purchase of your home. And during that period, you can walk away and change your mind about the house for any reason whatsoever, just because you woke up feeling different, or most likely you had an inspection done and just change your feelings about the house. But with the relocation company, that's not there. And there is a way for you to get your inspections, but what happens once you get an inspection with a relocation company?
Well, you're not in charge. Typically, working with a homeowner, you're in charge as the buyer. You can say, I don't like this, so I'm done. Usually, the contracts are different with relocation companies. And again, we're not looking at all of them, but the typical relocation contract says that basically we're talking about defects that were not previously disclosed by the seller. For that's a one little piece. So they can play hardball and say, look, we gave you an inspection. You knew about this.
And usually they will provide an
Yeah.
inspection. They've done it ahead of time. So they will have their wording be such that it wasn't previously disclosed, or it's a non-operational item is
Yep.
verbiage that
That's
we
a
saw
big
in
word.
the contract. So there might be things you might think you can negotiate to get taken care of, and they're saying, no, you knew about that already.
But basically, they give you three choices.
Yeah.
They'll take care of it. It's a defect. They'll give you a credit of some sort, or they'll just say we're done.
Although it's their choice. So the
Right.
emphasis is it's not your choice.
Yeah.
It's their choice. So as opposed to the normal back and forth, let's find something that works for both of us, that's not there.
Right.
And you don't have the ability to say that doesn't work for me.
Now, we will say this. What we just said is typically what the contract says. That doesn't mean that there aren't reasonable people existing in the relocation business. We bought this house from a relocation company. It was a good deal for us. We recognized it had been on the market for a long time. They were very reasonable. Now, was it the company? Was it the fact that it had been on the market for a long time? Who knows? But contracts and the letter of the law is kind of what you need to think about, right?
For sure. The point is that it's not always an ideal scenario to buy a house from a company or a home that's being sold by a relocation company, and as a seller, your house might not be looked at the same. We would definitely recommend somebody, if you had two houses you're looking at, one's being sold by a relocation company, one by the average homeowner, and you liked them both equally, I would go with the homeowner house. But if you don't, then you just take it as it is, but know what you're getting into, basically.
Yeah. And the key to all this is having somebody on your side that knows what they're doing, because these contracts are like, I don't know, 40 pages. Some of these contracts are really long.
It can be.
And having some help on your side, aka us, would be beneficial.
Okay, relocation. You have a choice.